بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين. Studying the issue of the martyrdom of Lady Fatima Zahra Salamullah alayha. In order to better understand this issue, we need to, and we have no choice other than getting into the discussion about the environment Lady Fatima was living in and the culture and the atmosphere. Without understanding those environmental issues, we cannot exactly know what happened to Ahlul Bayt. In this session, I try to very briefly to cover those issues, even though studying them in details and bringing the historical proofs may take several sessions. But I am doing my best to wrap it up in one session, so then we can get into the issue of the Shahada and the way that Lady Fatima Salamullah alayha passed away. First of all, we have to know that before Jahiliyyah and very immediate to the time of Jahiliyyah and the time that the lady was being born, the culture in the peninsula was a very male-dominated culture. So everything revolved around men, and women, ladies were sort of marginalized. Not only marginalized, they were not considered as equal in humanity to men, and this was because of different reasons. Shortage of sources of water, shortage of food. So this was one of the very main important elements in the peninsula. The tribes living in separate from each other, and they were basically nomads. Other than Ta'if, Yathrib and Mecca, the rest of Hijrah is almost the Bedouins, nomads traveling here and there and trying to find some sources of life. And here, the harshness of the land, it has a direct impact on people to turn hard and harsh, cold-hearted and irritable, like the nature itself. Even today in what we call it Saudi Arabia, so those people are from Najd, their culture is totally different from people of Medina, from people of the other cities. So the harshness of the geographical entity and the shortage of water, shortage of sources, it had impact on people, turning into harsh people, into very irritable people who used to get angry very easily, and very cold-hearted people in a sense that there was not that much mercy. And all this together, it made a kind of anti-female culture, anti-female in a sense that when there is shortage of sources, when there is shortage of water resources, there is shortage of food, and the other things means that there is a constant challenge and competition and fight over getting at these sources. So we know that there were some months later on, they called them al-ashhur al-haram, the months which are haram, means that at least 4 months during the year to stop fighting. And sometimes they happen even to break that law, and they used to fight the months that were haram, and Quran refers to these things that were there. So fighting, constant condition of war was a culture, and in that culture, when there is war, possible wars, you always need the warriors. So what mattered for the tribes to have strong warriors who could defend the tribe, and it means that they needed strong men. But when it came to women couldn't fight, and even if they were going to be taken as captives, so it was like a shame for the family, for the tribe, because this was also one of the Arabic values, to attack a tribe and to win their women, and actually to get their properties, to loot their properties and to loot their women and to have their women yours. We have heard that there were tribes who used to bury their daughters alive. So what mattered that they needed women from the other tribes later on for their continuation of life. So altogether, women were of a lower position, and they were not considered as equal human beings to men, and they were regarded as some properties beside the other properties for men. And their approach, I mean, the popular approach towards women was that they were included among the belongings of a man. In that atmosphere, in that culture, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed Lady Fatima salamullah alayha to the Prophet, and you see that some people considered it a shame for the Prophet that he had daughter. The akhlaq and the manner of the Prophet was totally different, showing a very unbelievable amount of respect and love and affection to the daughter by Rasulullah, and kissing her, respecting her, loving her so much from the very childhood till the time of her being grown and married. In one narration, some of the wives of the Prophet, they complain that, Ya Rasulullah, why you are kissing Fatima and she's married? Still you are kissing her and she is married. And the Prophet says that this love that I have towards Lady Fatima is beyond the love of a father and a daughter, even though it was emotional from one aspect, but from the other aspect, it is the position of Lady Fatima and the great akhlaq and soul of Lady Fatima that made the Prophet to respect her. So we have lots of hadiths in the virtues of Lady Fatima that usually we as Shia, we believe in them. Even though Ahlul Sunnah, just generally they have mentioned some hadiths, like when they say that Lady Fatima is Sayyida and the lady of the ladies of heaven. So she is the top lady, number one lady in heaven. So it means that such a lady that is of such position in Jannah, she has to have a specific position in the world, in this material world as well. Because whatever is achieved in that world realm of life in Akhirah is acquired and is attained here in this material world. So Lady Fatima is of a specific position at this material life, and the life after death is the continuation of this life. So if she is Sayyidatun Nisa of Ahlul Jannah, she is Sayyidatun Nisa in this material world as well. But the point is that it is only the Prophet and few like Amirul Mu'mineen and her children to understand, and some people like Salman and Miqdad and Abu Zar, to understand such a position for Lady Fatima salamullah alayha, that later on it was taught to the Shia, and Shia learned this from Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. So we can say that among the Muslim denominations and the schools, it is only Shia that believes that a lady can ascend to such a position of isma and infallibility, that her saying, her silent, her deeds are hujjah like the infallible men and males. So from this perspective, Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, they told Shia about the position of Lady Fatima Zahra salamullahi alayha, and also her lifestyle shows that she was of a great akhlaq and manner, and people like the Prophet, they knew it, and the Prophet used to make people understand it. So in a culture, in a society that is very anti-female, Allah gave such a daughter to the Prophet, and the Prophet used to love her so much, and not just loving her, showing this to people that I love this daughter of mine, and she is the most beloved one in my eyes. So these are important points in the life of the Prophet, Lady Fatima Zahra salamullah alayha. If we want to understand the procedure in her life, we have to know that, or we can divide the life of Lady Fatima, the short life of Lady Fatima, to be 18 years. 25 or maximum 27 years, which have been mentioned in different views and narrations. This short life of Lady Fatima, we can classify it in three parts. The first part is the part that Lady was in Mecca, the time that she was born, and it is famous that she was born at the year 5 after Hijrah, and after Bi'sa, sorry, not Hijrah, after Bi'sa, after Allah sent the Prophet as a prophet to people. And it is the time that there were lots of hardships and difficulties for the Muslims. Muslims were under pressure, and Lady Fatima was being born in such difficult moments and conditions. So she used to see her father, beloved father, and the mother and their relatives in hardship and in difficulty. So it's a time that she was experiencing such hardships and difficulties. Then we have Sheikh Abi Talib, the sanction that the kuffar had against the Prophet, and Muslims suffered for 3 years. At that time, Lady Fatima was visiting all those things, seeing and experiencing. Then we have the demise of the great uncle of the Prophet and her own mother, so she had to suffer such a big loss, and then she had to be the support for the Prophet. And to the extent that we have heard that the Prophet called her Abiha, the mother of her father. So Lady Fatima, as a very young daughter of some 5-6 years, taking care of the father and showing that this little daughter of the Prophet is very special. And in Ansab al-Ashraf, Belazari mentions in volume 1, page 125, the story that once the Prophet was in Sajda in Masjid al-Haram, he was doing ibadah. Then one of the slaves of this, one of the aristocrats of Quraysh, one of the slaves belonging to that aristocrat, he came and he threw some dirt of the stomach of a camel on the head of the Prophet, and Abu Jahl started laughing, and he laughed so much that he laid on the ground out of laughter, and nobody dared to do anything. And this narration says that Lady Fatima salamullah alayha, she went and removed those dirt from the head of the father and tried to load off the pain from the Prophet. So and this is because of the young age and being a female that she can do such a thing, that to go and to defend the Prophet and not to be hurt by those aristocrats. So the life in Mecca is like this. Then we have the immigration, and Lady Fatima is almost 8 years when she immigrated from Mecca to Medina. When she comes to Medina, things are totally different. In Medina, the Prophet is the most important person in the city, and his strength and his position was growing, even though it was not that much stable. But anyhow, in such a condition that many people know that the Prophet is of a great position, and even his position in the future will be more important. So what happens here is the marriage of the Lady Fatima salamullah alayha, that it has a lots of social political aspects to it. As we know that the marriages in the past, they were one of the very strong means and ways of strengthening one's position by getting married to a woman related to important families and tribes. So we see that Abu Bakr and Umar and others like Abdul Rahman bin Auf, like Osman bin Affan, these people, they sort of insisted to get married to Lady Fatima salamullah alayha, and the Prophet is under pressure from this perspective. So to say no to these people is not easy. It means that the Prophet had some considerations. He didn't want to openly say no, because he knew that there will be some reactions from the people if they feel that their request is failed to be responded. So here the Prophet, according to the narrations, postponed it to the demand and to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah will decide for the marriage of Lady Fatima, this way to remove the responsibility from himself. And we know that in the second year after Hijrah, Lady Fatima was married to Imam Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam. And as I said, the position of the Prophet is not stable yet. And actually, the position of the Prophet as a ruler on Medina is established after the Battle of Ahzab, the Battle of Pardes. Before the Battle of Ahzab, the Muslims and Kuffar also, they felt that if the Kuffar are going to come with full power, they will destroy Islam. It's very likely to destroy Islam. But after the Battle of Ahzab, what happens is that the Kuffar of Hijaz, they did their best and they were not capable to defeat the Prophet. There was something very important. A message was received by all sides, and it was that Islam from now on is going to be the most important, or at least one of the most important dynamics and players on the ground. From now on, you see that the Kuffar, they came to take Muslims serious. Now they come to negotiations after this. Before that, they didn't see Muslims at the position to come to negotiation. Now they can negotiate, they can discuss the future. And now they know that this is not going to be destroyed easily, and this is going to be recognized as one of the real players on the ground in Peninsula. So it means that from now on, there are lots of people who look at the chance to be the successors to the Prophet. And from that time, we see that the Prophet is very conservative about the issue of successorship. Before that, the Prophet was very open to speak about the successorship. And for example, in Ashiratul Aghrabin, when he introduced Imam Ali as his successor, nobody challenged him, and even people started laughing at him because he had no position. So a successor to the Prophet is of no position. But after the Battle of Ahzab, it matters a lot to many people, especially the different tribes and heads of tribes, that who is going to take the position of the Prophet. And we see that after that, the Prophet becomes very conservative to talk about that issue, and there are lots of things there that I don't have chance to get into it. But at that time, all these battles till the Battle of Ahzab, like the Battle of Badr, Uhud, and Khandaq, and all these things, we see that Imam Ali alayhi salam is one of the main and the key influences on the ground. And so Lady Fatima salamullah alayha always seeing her father and her husband in the battlefield. And if we don't want to look at it from the heavenly perspective to know the future, so from worldly perspective, when we look at it, means that she had to always be concerned about the future of the father and the husband, what's going to happen to them. And so Imam Ali alayhi salam, in all these battles, is the hero. Imam Ali alayhi salam is the one who had a very shining role in different battles, showing very brave sacrifices and brave acts of him that makes him the hero. So being the hero of the Muslims, it's very clear that it is going to prove lots of jealousies among the other peers and other rivals, other friends. So especially in that nuclear society of Hijaz and the tribe, is clear that for such small things, jealousies will be provoked. In big cities, in big states, in big societies, it's not like that. In the modern societies, it is different. But you see that, for example, in a very nuclear, small society of Mecca, it mattered a lot that who is going to put the Hajarul Aswad in its place. So you see that lots of fights were there, just who is going to put it in its place. So for small things that may not matter to people today, at that time it mattered a lot, and it could bring lots of authority and recognition for the people. It could give them power. So to be the hero of Islam, to be the hero of the army of the Prophet, it could itself provoke kind of feeling of jealousy and envy in the hearts of some Muslims. And on the other hand, being the hero of Islam, it meant that lots of hatred and enmity was being provoked in the hearts of the enemies of Islam and Quraysh, that later on when they accepted Islam, but it was by force, and it means that they had all those spites and hatreds in the heart, and they could show it after the demise of the Prophet. So in such an atmosphere, another thing that we can see are the behaviors, especially of the ladies in the house of the Prophet. So Prophet, for specific reasons, we know that he had to marry different women, and these ladies were there. And there is a very serious rivalry and competition among the women, among the wives of the Prophet. And history shows us that such competitions and such serious sort of jealousies and envies among the ladies, that Surah Al-Tahrim are the best, those verses of Surah Al-Tahrim is one of the best examples for this, that to what extent the ladies were of such jealousy and envying each other and acting that sometimes even it hurt and damaged the Prophet, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Tahrim talks about it. So those women, according to historical narrations, sometimes they happen to have such feeling towards Lady Fatima al-Zahra as well, especially because they saw that the level that the Prophet used to respect Lady Fatima. That the narrations say that whenever the Prophet saw Lady Fatima, he stood up in respect of Lady and went forward to welcome her. So this is not something to be popular at that time. Not only it wasn't popular, it was not liked, it was very disliked. So these behaviors of the Prophet, for men it was not bearable. So sometimes even they opened the mouth to criticize the Prophet, or even if they didn't criticize, they had such a bad feeling in the heart, hiding it, that why you are doing this, why you are respecting your daughter to this extent, and this is not how we treat our women. This is not the way that akhlaq that the Arab has behaving the women, to the extent that even sometimes ladies complain to the Prophet that why you are respecting and you are showing such respect to Lady Fatima to this extent. And the Prophet tried to explain it, but it was difficult for the people. It's not understandable for that culture and for those people. And bear in mind that these ladies, and some of these ladies, their fathers were very influential in the society. These ladies felt not only jealousy to Lady Fatima, even to Lady Khadija, the mother of Lady Fatima, that in Sahih Bukhari and the other sources in Sahih it has mentioned that they have expressed later that we felt such envy to Khadija salamullah alayha. So this envy was provoked more and more when they saw the respect that the Prophet showed to Lady Fatima and the love that the Prophet showed to Lady Fatima. So they had a kind of hatred, a hidden hatred towards Lady Fatima and the children of Lady Fatima salamullah alayha. That you can see, one example is when they wanted to bury Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam beside the Rasulullah. You see that they what they did, and they attacked even the body of Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba, and they shot arrows, and they hurt the feelings of Ahlul Bayt and Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So we see that beside the respect that the Prophet had, Lady Fatima, in a very short while, she brought some grandchildren for the Prophet. In a short while, she had 4 children, and even the 5th one, she was pregnant when the Prophet passed away. And this bringing children, not only she brought children, and these children are exceptional children, they are not normal children. Imam al-Hasan, Imam al-Hussein, Lady Zainab, and according to the narrations, Kulthum. And she was carrying Muhsin, salamullah alayhim ajma'in. And the Prophet, even looking at it from a very materialistic perspective, secular perspective, an old man of that age not having a son to be alive, and almost the life of Medina is only the Lady Fatima to be with the Prophet. As a child, and now the grandchildren mattered a lot to the Prophet, and 2 sons like Hassan and Hussein. So the Prophet, even regardless of their iman and their position and being Sayyida Shabab Ahl al-Jannah, and just looking at it from a secular perspective, this was very important for the Prophet and bringing ease and peace to the Prophet. So it is Lady Fatima bringing these children for the Prophet, and the Prophet used to call Hassan and Hussein his own sons, and the daughters of Fatima salamullah alaiha as his own daughters. So this was something that could provoke more jealousy for some people, and all these things, I mean, could create a kind of difficult condition for Lady Fatima salamullahi alaiha. So as I said from the beginning, the culture of Arab itself was anti-female, and the respect that the Prophet had for Lady Fatima, it could be bothering, could be annoying for them. And when this happened, at least for a decade, they used to see this. And the Prophet every day for 6 months coming and staying at the door of Lady Fatima and sending and passing salam to calling them Ahlul Bayt and passing salam to them. And this respecting Lady Fatima, kissing her, and carrying Hassan and Hussein on his shoulders, prolonging sajda when Hassan or Hussein is riding on the back of the Prophet, when carrying them with him on minbar. So these things were not something that culture liked. And Lady Fatima salamullah alaiha, all these virtues could provoke the jealousies of men and the women, especially those women who were in the house of the Prophet. And so all these things could cause problems. People didn't like the behavior that the Prophet had. For example, in one occasion, as the history mentions, a person by the name Aqra bin Habis, when he saw that the Prophet was kissing his grandchildren, sort of criticizing the Prophet, said, I have 10 children and I have never kissed any of them. So what are you doing? What is this? And the Prophet explaining that no, you should love your children, you should respect and show affection and love towards them. So this was a kind of a challenge that the Prophet had with the akhlaq. So the akhlaq of tribe, the akhlaq of the Arab is totally against what the Prophet was behaving, and it means that in a large extent it was annoying for them, and it was something that they didn't like it. Then we come to the last days of the life of the Prophet. In Hajjatul Wida, the Prophet talks about his saying farewell to this life. So the khutbah itself, the sermon itself, is in a way that the Prophet is talking about his departure and leaving this material world. Then when he comes back after a short while, he gets sick. At the beginning, the sickness is not serious, then it gets serious, and then the Prophet passed away. And this is very difficult for Lady Fatima Zahra salamullah alaiha from different perspectives. She loves the father so much, and this love is not, I said, as a simple and normal love that a father and a daughter have. So knowing each other, the great souls of each other. And beside this pain of losing such a father, Lady Fatima very well knows that the sensitivities of time and the problems that they are going to face. Actually, these problems began from the last days of the life of the Prophet, or even the last months of the life of the Prophet. There were lots of activities that they could see that they were suspicious, and so we see that while the Prophet was sick, some of the ladies sending their fathers to perform salat in the masjid and to be imam of salat. Then the Prophet, when he is ever with hardship and difficulty that he cannot walk, 2 people carry him to masjid to go and remove that person and perform salat as the imam. Of course, they have tried to narrate this story in a different way, not to hurt those icons of Ahl Sunnah. But anyhow, the history and those 6-7 hadiths that are there in Sahih, it shows very clearly that when you put them all together, that the Prophet actually didn't want this to happen. And or that the hadith that says the Prophet said, call my Habib and my beloved to come to me. So there are 3 of the wives there. Each of them called their own father to come. And when the Prophet turns his face from them, then they say that he's looking for Ali. So they are sort of disappointed. So all these activities there, when the Prophet is about to write the wasiyah and they say that inna rajul la yahjur, na'uzubillah, he's saying nonsense. So all these activities were very clear. There were clues and indications that things were happening. Aisha has narrated this story that Lady Fatima was sitting beside the bed of the Prophet, and so she was crying, and then they had a whisper, and Lady Fatima started smiling, and we were surprised that what is this crying and smiling. And later on, when I asked her and I insisted that I want to know the truth, then Fatima told me that the Prophet, while I was crying, told me that you are the first person from my Ahlul Bayt to join me. And I knew that soon I'm going to join the Prophet, so I smiled because of that. So all these things are the indicators that we can see that there were stories taking place. So those people who had such bad feeling towards Lady Fatima, I said a kind of jealousy that they had, the kind of behavior that the Prophet had was annoying to them. Bravery of Imam Ali alayhi salam, the jealousy they had towards Imam Ali. And the story of Ghadir is the matter of consensus among Shia and Sunni. And the Prophet there said that Man kuntu mawlah fahaza aliyun mawlah. Anyone, I am his mawla, Ali is the mawla. We as Shia, we say that mawla here means the successor to the Prophet, guardian and political and religious authority. Ahlul Sunnah, they say no, it's only meaning that we have to love Ali alayhi salam. But anyhow, even if we compromise with them, and even if we accept that your interpretation is correct, that in Ghadir, thousands of Muslims vowed to love Ali, and they hear the Prophet that anyone who loves Ali loves the Prophet and loves Allah, and anyone who is enemy of Ali will be the enemy of Allah and the Prophet. So if we take your interpretation of Ghadir, few months after that, what happens to Ali? What is the position of Ali? So even in that sense, if we want to look at the issue, we see that Imam Ali alayhi salam was not received such a love and such a respect from the people. And so Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, Imam Ali and Lady Fatima together, so they were having such problems that it was accumulated events and issues of hatred, jealousy, enmity, rivalry. So this is very important point that these were there, and especially when some women who were in the house of the Prophet, then to provoke their own relations and relatives to do specific acts against Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. And this is very serious. When they felt jealousy, we see that they showed such rivalries in different occasions. Just if you want to bring two examples, one of them is the story of Maria Qibtiyya when she bore Ibrahim alayhi salam, the son of the Prophet. So the jealousy was too much that the Prophet had to get a house for her outside Medina and to take to Maria and Ibrahim there. And two of them, Ibrahim passed away at a very young age. This is very suspicious, that we don't know what happens and why should Ibrahim pass away such a young age. It's very suspicious. And also Maria herself, and Maria passed away very young age. Again, this is suspicious. And even if it was normal, she was under very heavy pressure, psychological pressures that we see that these people, they couldn't stand, and life became difficult for them. After the demise of the Prophet, what happens is that now they were trying to get bay'ah for Abu Bakr from all people. And among the opponents of this was Bani Hashim and also others. And among Bani Hashim, the outstanding person is Imam Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam. And because of the position that Imam Ali alayhi salam had, sort of he is the most outstanding person. And Imam Ali in the house of Lady Fatima salamullah alayha. So the house of Lady Fatima becomes the access and the center for those who were not happy with the choosing of Abu Bakr. So we see that those who were supporters of Saqifa, immediately they come to attack the house of Lady Fatima. That inshallah we will study it in the coming sessions. But the point here is that the people were very emotional, and in that condition, inshallah, again I will talk about this one in the other sessions, that Imam Ali couldn't speak more than a specific amount, and it was only Lady Fatima as a woman, as the daughter of the Prophet, that she could speak and she could defend the right cause. So Lady Fatima was the daughter of the Prophet, was respected by the Prophet. She is the only remaining child of the Prophet, and all these things could give a kind of position to Lady Fatima that even Imam Ali alayhi salam didn't have. And if Imam Ali wanted to do a specific act like Lady Fatima, they could easily kill him. But Lady Fatima had a kind of a position, then she used the position. I said the most important thing is to be a woman. So it was a shame for Arab to fight a woman, and this was not popular. I said they didn't consider a woman of a level to fight. They were underestimated women. Women were not considered as equal to men. Like for example, we have heard the story that in the palace of Ibn Ziyad, when they brought Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, when Lady Zainab argued him and he was angry, he said that I ordered to kill Lady Zainab, and the people around him, they said that it's a shame to kill a woman, and then he changed his decision. So, I mean, even if the Prophet had a son after him, if Ibrahim was alive and if he was grown, he couldn't do what Lady Fatima did. Imam Ali couldn't do what Lady Fatima did. Lady Fatima, because of being a woman, she did what she did and she tried to defend the right cause. But as I said, what happened is not only the matter of Khilafah or Fadak. There are lots of other things around. We have to study all the details which are mentioned for us in the history, that the jealousy they had to their Lady Fatima, to the household of Ahlul Bayt, and feeling envy to the position that they had. All these things together, and the behavior that the Prophet had towards Lady Fatima that couldn't be tolerated by those people. So all those accumulated emotions, angers, hatreds, spites come together and they show themselves in the form of what happened. And in another point to study here is the character of those people that I may refer to it in the coming session, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد